All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call to order the Tuesday, June 16th, 2026 Pendleton Board of Zoning Appeals. We'll do a roll call starting to my left.
Hey, Robert Jones. James King.
Kyle Eichler.
Jenny Sisson.
Probably.
All right, we do have a quorum. Entertain a motion to approve the May 19th minutes. Second,
I second.
all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And it's approved. All right, we have 3 findings of fact on old business.
Good evening. We just had 3 findings of facts that were approved at our last Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. The first one is property there at 0 South 625 West. That is the property that is owned by Tyler Hazel. That particular petition was denied based on the facts that were presented that evening. In review and analysis, this board had determined it was more appropriate for a variance of development standards in relation to that hobby farm that was a permitted use by right, but felt that a variance from the developmental standards regarding the restrictions of the setback was more appropriate than seeking that land use variance of livestock raising. So there was various points there, the criteria. We had walked through those. Your board had made determinations on each one of those. There were 5 remonstrators also that were formally submitted in letter form prior to the meeting, as well as we did have 2 individuals that did speak out in opposition to that petition. If you have any questions about, we can go through each one of these. I know they are in your Teams folder there for your review, but if you have any questions for staff, I'll be more than happy to answer them. The second findings of facts there is regarding property owned by Adam Shanks. It's property at 331 South Broadway Street. This particular variance was seeking a variance for an accessory structure that was, in a sense, going to be kind of shored up, added on, and height bumped up for that particular structure. Also, there was a variance from the exterior materials there that had been recently, after the home had been constructed using a vinyl siding, those standards had changed per a unified development ordinance though, but considering all the facts and relevant I guess points, in this particular petition, this board did approve this variance. It was approved with no conditions on that. That was a residential property within the Residential Core Conservancy. Any questions on that one? Okay, all right. Moving on to the last one is petitioner Sid Butler. There was no remonstrance on this petition as well, located there at 6290 South 425 West. And this was same request seeking some variances regarding an accessory structure that they wanted to construct in their rear, in their back lawn. This was regarding square footage, height, and exterior material. In this particular variance, there was a change in the HOA there at Shady Bend that all of the request was compliant then also with their standard as well. There was no objection submitted by anyone in the public, and also this was approved by your board with no conditions.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we have the paperwork there. Do want to make note, there has been a change with Madison County as far as who signs the forms there. So we will need all of your signatures on that, attesting to the agreements that those terms were what was approved. But as far as the test on the cover sheet, it is now the president, the chair, and also our clerk treasurer. So that did get changed here recently with the county.
On the new business, Item A, V 0616-2026-01, 240 Indiana Avenue.
All right, so we've got 4 petitions tonight. I do want to make note on the record that there was a 5th petition that was filed for land use variance by Mr. Pete Pitar that was formally withdrawn here just recently. So we will not hear that petition tonight, but I just wanted to make sure that we did acknowledge that. Okay, the first petition that we do have here for tonight, it is regarding property at 240 Indiana Avenue. This property is zoned residential core conservancy. It is a property that you'll see here. It's about 0.3 acres. It is divided under over 4 parcels here. They are kind of shotgun parcels here, very narrow and long parcels that historically been owned by the same individual for many years. This is kind of on the tail end, the book end of our residential core area there, and it's nestled in between Broadway Street to the east and then also Pendleton Avenue to the west. These 4 parcels here went through a reconstitution, they're replatting this past fall. And so that was done administratively with the planning department, the recorder's office. And you'll see here, kind of show you here, we do have a residential home that sits here on the parcel on lots 29 and 30. And then lots 27 and 28, you'll see that there is a structure here. It's a garage that kind of divides that center line. These 4 parcels, again, that has been completed process back in about, I think it was October 25. The detached garage there that sits there over the center line, it is 400 square feet, and it will, if this is approved and this proposed structure is constructed on the site, that garage will need to be removed or relocated somewhere else on the site. So, and then also this particular property, it is served by public utilities. That is our utilities for water, electric, gas, and sanitary sewer. You want to go on to the next slide, Stephanie? Okay, so as far as what variance is being requested for your consideration tonight is to allow a 2-family residential dwelling on this site intended for long-term rental. Long-term rental is allowable use within our residential core conservancy zoning district. And along with this request, they're asking for 3 variances for your consideration. First is the height of this 2-story structure. The requirement for RC, it's a little bit different. So most of our single family, we have a height maximum of 30 feet. This one is under 30 feet. It's about 26.5, I believe. But the way that our RC is designed, it is designed that those homes within a block, you want the height to meet the majority of the height of the homes. So if looking between Pendleton Avenue to the west and Broadway to the south, most of those homes, pretty much all but one, are 1-story ranch style homes. There is, though, one towards North Pendleton Avenue. It's a 2-story home, and it looks very similar in that style. As far as character in that area, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, though. But what is being proposed, and you'll see, you also have additional renderings in your drawing. They do complement, those homes that are already on that lot. But they are seeking that variance to allow a 2-story structure. They're also seeking, there is a requirement specifically tailored for the RC zoning district, and that is regarding the garage and the orientation of the access. And so there are 3 options in the RC zoning district according to our UDO. The 3 options are either to have a noticeably greater setback for the garage, that front elevation off of the home. The second is to either be side loading or rear loading. And then the third is it fills a maximum of 1/3 of the length. So that is kind of from end to end from the front facade. That is not from front to back. That is side to side then, that it would not fill any more than 1/3. So with the unique layout of this parcel, also too, with the needs to access from the public roadway, and not having an alley off the rear, these three options were not considered a doable or practical for this desired development. And then the third is that they are seeking a small variance within the requirement that in the RC zoning district, each unit on the ground floor has to be a maximum of 800 square feet. This particular unit is slightly shy of that. So it's 737 square feet of living space. So the garage is not included. So that alone, it does bump it over then that 800 square feet. But on its face, then it's about 63 square feet short per unit, meeting the standard of the UDO. And you'll see kind of here outlined as far as the lots. This is kind of how it's already been divided. This is Indiana Avenue here. This particular parcel then will access the two garages here right up off of the roadway. And then it is, and we'll show you here on the next slide, where the layout and the elevation and the floor plan. And then this here is the existing structure here. The things I do want to point out, the front, rear, and side setbacks are met by this proposed development, including the setback between the new development and the existing development. So all those requirements and standards would be met. If you want to go to the next slide, Stephanie. Okay. This is showing just kind of the face on. This is the elevation of the proposed structure. Again, it's I don't know if I cut it out, but it's shy of the 30 feet. It's about 26 feet there at the peak. These would be two different units. They would be intended by the property owner to rent as the property owner intends to continue to rent the parcel to the east. But these would be two single units, adding in character to meet the residential core character and design requirements. All those are met with what is being proposed. And then you'll see here kind of on the side elevation, what this structure and home, which would be a two-family home facility, then, what it would look like from the east and the west wall. And then here, this would be a porch then for both units, then off the backyard. Also want to point out too, if you want to go ahead and go on to the next slide, Stephanie, the impervious surface is a maximum of 50%, and it also too is being met. The next slide just kind of shows you the layout of first floor and second floor. There's the first floor here. This is where you're going to see the access to the garage here. Has a front stoop with the overhang is required by the UDO. And then just kind of a front entrance in here, and then it opens up into the living space and quarters here. And then upstairs, then you've got your units that have the two bath, three bedroom for each of those. And those are just duplicate of each, same layout on each side. So, do you have any questions as far as kind of the development, the site, what is being, and also I wanted to point out that we do have Tom Cheeseman. Let's say he is back over here. He is present here tonight. He had worked with the planning department early on and came in and started walking through, working with the property owner with what their desires are, as how that they would like to improve the site and to fully maximize the benefit of this parcel. We have not received any formal objections, oppositions, whether in verbal or in writing for this petition, and he as well as I are here to answer any questions. So if you have questions, I can pause here. We can go into our staff analysis. So this is analysis that both Connor Grant was very involved with these as well. So appreciate his help and support in getting us ready for tonight's presentations. And the proposed variances, the function of our planning department is to analyze the petition against approved and relevant plans and ordinances, as well as any existing conditions and or variances placed upon the site, to present the facts and analysis. And we have the following comments that we'd like to share with your body. The proposed variances do not appear to create a risk for public health, safety, and general welfare. The petition proposes that the construction of the new two-family residential dwelling, which is the use consistent with the existing residential character and established uses and surrounding area. The proposed increase in height allows the property owner to provide that additional living space while maintaining a residential building form. This two-story and multi-residential dwelling is permissible in our residential core conservancy, as mentioned earlier, and that there is one two-story home that is on that block, and it's located there to the west end of Indiana Avenue. The minimum lot width, the setbacks, and the impervious surface requirements, and all of the exterior materials and UDO requirements will be met if this is approved and moves on to the development phase. The front load garage is because of that narrow lot access and needs to that narrow lot. That front load is consistent with the visual prominence of the dwelling, but then also it is consistent with all the homes around and on that block. There is no rear access homes and very minimal side loads on that block. This petitioner is requesting to allow 737 square feet of the ground floor for those living spaces. That is compared to the 800 square foot requirement, just being shy of 63 square feet per unit. The proposed dwelling units continue to provide functional living space by also allowing the overall building design fitting in with the character of our residential core area and working within the constraints of that site. This plot, these 4 parcels were reconstituted back in October, which allows for this new development. So that means like the front width of the lots to be able to qualify for RC, all of those have been assessed and analyzed and have been met. So this has already been moved to the county's office for recording and process. And the petition is not anticipated to adversely affect any of the public infrastructure, utilities, traffic circulation, and access to the property or the values of the properties nearby. The existing home access to the garage will then be relocated, as we spoke earlier, and we will coordinate access to that property, that is existing property, with our planning department when the time comes. All applicable provisions of the UDO are anticipated to be met, as well as fire and building codes. Yes.
I do have a
We'll let you do those.
sounds good. Because we've been pretty strict on that garage door in the RC area, although I know that there's no other options here. Given that, based on the rendering, it looks like, so it's not garage door dominant, they're trying to add some decorative doors. So I just want to make sure that that is the case. Based on the rendering, it doesn't look like your plain garage door. It looks like a craftsman style, something that's a little nicer to give some character. So I want to, because there's a lot of concessions regarding this garage dominant presence, that would, to me, be a condition.
Yeah.
The other, and I just want to make sure, because part of the rendering is not filled in, and I understand it's to give just kind of an illusion or an understanding. On the side, we have 3 windows, but then the rest does not have windows. And then the 2-bedroom windows up doors are facing back. There has to be at least one. Am I correct on the placement?
Yes, the side walls require two windows, so they are met. The east as well has windows the same. It would be the same because it's the duplicate unit then on the other side.
I was just thinking
Yep.
more of the one unit that was near the 1-story home. You
Oh,
know,
yes.
for the bedroom and then looking down on the neighbor's backyard. So just because that part's blurred out. So there's one window per bedroom facing back.
It's in the rear, in the rear, yes,
Okay.
yes.
The other question I have based on the rendering is, I cannot tell from the front or side view. It looks like the roof for the porch does protrude a little out from the building. Is that correct? Or is it aligned because the door is set back and the patio's a little back? Or is it aligned with the front of the structure, the garage?
It is protruded from the front wall. And so then I would say probably about what, 5 feet, maybe it comes up off of the front facade. So if you're facing it, then it angles back to the door entrance way. So it's deeper as it closer to the
okay.
wall. Yeah, it gives that character that we are looking for,
Yes,
for the
that front
historic,
porch.
yes, area, yes, yeah.
Lastly,
Yep, great question.
just the overall materials being used, because sometimes that adds the extra character. There's different layerings, whether it's just vertical, horizontal, shaker. And it looks like there's something decorative up there in the bracket, but I just want to know a little more about that since we are, again, there's a lot of concessions being asked.
Yes. So it's the hardy plank is what the cement board is what will be used for their exterior material. Oh, sorry.
Smart side flat, 8-inch flat.
In different colors or all one, you know, where they're. I'm just saying, I usually don't get into the decorative piece, but because it is an RC and we've been very guarded over
Protect.
RC, and it's a little different proposal. I just want to make sure that it's very fitting for that area. And not necessarily telling you exactly what to do, but I want that feel for that area to be considered. So I don't need to know the color today, but I was wondering, sometimes you can break things up, give more character by using a couple colors, accent, and that is standard for RC,
Yes.
especially coming off that historic district.
Yes, and we do have additional requirements for RC.
Yes.
So yes, they've been
Okay.
great to be able to work with and walk through all those requirements. So yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
I
Yep,
just wanted
but great
to
question.
have all of
Yep.
that out.
And I do think that having that as a condition to adhere to what was being, presented in character and architectural features, especially like the garage door and so forth. I believe that the petitioner would agree to that, but I don't want to speak, on your behalf.
Say we get the garage door.
Okay.
We can adopt this graphic as something
Sure.
to be
Yes.
substantially similar.
Yeah.
That way when staff reviews the building permit, they can
Mhm.
compare.
Yeah.
Question?
Couple questions. The 800 square foot minimum ground floor, does that depend if it's a 1 story or 2 story? Is it bigger if it's a 1 story house or is it?
It's actually the same. The UDO is the same with RC. I want to make sure I'm not saying that out of line, but I'm making the 800 square feet for both. Yes. It is, yeah.
Total square footage, just curious.
I had that, it's that around 18, 19, yes.
Yeah, so the total square footage, first and second floor is 3,674, including the garage. For the living space, first floor, that's total, again, we're a duplex, so we split this in half, 1,837. With the garage, and without garage is 1,360. So that's the magic number, is 1,000.
That's divided by 2 for that 700, yeah, yep.
You know, on the garage, sometimes you'll see a home that cramps the space, will turn the garage into living area. Are there any restrictions on that, if the tenant decides, do that? You see that periodically with a garage door disappears, becomes
Yeah.
exterior
Fine.
home, and obviously used to be a garage.
Yeah.
And now it's been changed. Are there any restrictions governing that, or is that applicable?
So we do not, we do have restrictions and requirements for parking. The length of the driveway satisfies that. But that should be a commitment. That can be a condition of this variance, is that it could not be converted into living space and it had to maintain then the use and functionality of a garage. Absolutely.
Okay. Just so I read that standpoint, it's gonna be a rental,
Mhm.
and and so it seems like what they explain is different from what the typical residential home is, and I can see that could be, so we see the garage door disappears and it becomes living space. Wow.
Good point.
Is there a requirement for a certain number of parking spaces per unit?
Well, there is two. So that would probably require then the one in the garage and then the one in the driveway. So.
That's
So that would, it is satisfied. So that alone would be our protection, for converting that garage, in there. I did check in as far as on-street parking for Indiana Avenue. It's not marked as no parking, but the width of it's 18 feet. It's not really conducive of it. It doesn't generally, have on-street parking. So we would need to have that second space in there to count.
So for a continuation of that, the cut onto the road, where does that fall? The DUDO, is this considered, does it get to be considered two? So then you can multiply the cut in the road by
Yeah.
that since it's shared?
Yes, and it goes by the number of garages. So it is 2 or more garages, and then the width of it too is already within our maximum
Of
width as well. So it's just for one car width versus, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if I missed
Everybody,
something.
yeah.
Well, on the sketch, it looks like the driveway. It shows it is like roughly 36 feet wide on that sketch,
That one.
but on the blueprint, it shows the building as being 36 feet wide. So I assume the driveway is gonna be the width of the garages.
Yes, that is correct.
So
We had that in. Cause I think maybe on the floor plan layout, cause that is just kind of squared. So it kind of, the width is equal to the width of the garage and not the width of the home. There where the bump outs are to the porches.
So that's only about 24 feet. So that's the
Yeah.
intent. is to have
Mhm.
24
Yes, yes.
And a sidewalk to the. And staff questions. We open the public hearing. All right, 7:29, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. Is there anybody in person or online, or did we receive any letters?
We did not.
Okay. Nobody on?
No calls, no letter.
Anybody in person wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Guess we'll go through the staff. I think the staff analysis is pretty thorough and it addresses the criteria pretty well. So I think we could adopt the staff analysis. You know, as meeting the 5 criteria. We mentioned a couple conditions that the proposed building will be substantially similar to what's been presented.
The character and architectural standards.
we need to go through the 5 criteria separately, or can we just adopt the staff? Discussion on it, or?
Do we have conditions though?
Well, we want to, so we could look to entertain a motion with the condition that the architectural features and is substantially similar to this presentation.
That covers it.
You want to do the coverage on the garage, not converting into living space, just as the added protection. To have that reported, it's totally up.
Like, it's-
I'm good with that.
We can add that, is that petitioner okay with that condition?
that's good.
I'd like to, I want to clarify, is that if you won't change the exterior, they won't get rid of the garage door, or is it they literally won't use the garage area as living space?
We should maintain 2 parking spaces. So the garage will be maintained as vehicular parking. Is that what you were thinking?
I was more concerned about just changing the elevation. I'm not really that interested in how they have to use their garage. I don't work in their garage. And, parking is what it is. I'm more concerned about there's not a change where all of a sudden the garage door is gone and block it in and put an entry door. I'm more concerned about that than the actual how the renter is going to actually use it as guest bedroom. I don't care. It's all the exterior. Doesn't say.
You said it has no window for emergencies and things like that, that would not really suffice fire code, so.
We all understand.
You're saying the UDO requires 2 parking spaces?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Were you
For-
thinking
for
to maintain it as a garage? That was kind of,
I see
More
what
so than
the
just
garage
door.
is. Yeah, that's what the request is, when see protection there, stays that way.
that's agreeable.
That's good.
Yeah, okay. And then as far as the existing garage, I assume that its removal would have to occur before construction. You know.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we can entertain a motion, adopting the staff's analysis as our findings of fact. And with the 2 conditions, 1 of the architectural requirements and 2 of the garage. Maintaining as a garage.
I'll make a motion to approve as stated, B 6162026-01 with the 2 conditions as well.
Then do we have a second?
Second that.
Bob with the second. Any discussion on the motion? We need a roll call or is it? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Aye.
motion carries 4-1. All right, we'll go on to the second item, 203 South Broadway.
Yes, this is, property located at 203 South Broadway. We do have the petitioner here with us this evening, Jennifer McCoy. She is here, so if you have any questions that cannot answer, she is here to help us along with those conversations and discussions. As far as this petition, same likewise as the prior petition. We did not receive any remonstrance, any inquiries, any questions or objections, whether verbally over the phone or in writing regarding this petition. And here are just some current use and site details. Starting out, this property is zoned residential core conservancy zoning district. This property is about 0.29 acres, just about a third of an acre. This is currently used and will long-term, long-standing, as well as in the future, to be deemed as single-family residential. This property, just some features on that, includes an in-ground pool. You'll see here kind of to the rear. The property here is outlined in blue. And here is the in-ground pool. Here is the residential homestead with the attached garage here and the driveway here. This particular parcel is enclosed here in the rear then with a privacy fence. completely enclosed backyard. This property is serviced by public utilities, including the water, electric, gas, and sanitary sewer. And it's just kind of on the outskirts of our downtown business district. That's that darker, brighter shade of pink than to the east and the north. So this petitioner is here asking for your consideration of a variance of a developmental standards. This is one variance that they are seeking. This petitioner is requesting to be able to exceed the maximum impervious surface requirements for RC. To allow then a 12 by 24 foot garden shed. Envisioned, it would be constructed to look very similar to the visual here up on your screen. The total square footage for that structure is about 288 square feet. So right now, as it stands, this particular parcel is considered to be a legal non-conforming site. So what that means is that with the impervious surface maximum within the UDO, within our RC district, it requires that it needs to, and you'll see a breakdown in your Teams folder there, but it maximizes that impervious surface. So that is what we call the rooftops. That is our sidewalks, our driveways, anything in which rain cannot then penetrate the ground underneath. We also include, because it is cement sidewalk around the pool and it's an in-ground pool, so it is considered still a part of those calculations as well, that in-ground pool here in the rear.
Can I
So,
stop you? I'm sorry.
yes,
So you said that the pool is part of the impervious?
that is a part of the impervious.
So
So
the pool part isn't subtracted from that equation?
it is included in the equation. Yes, yeah. So,
I thought pools weren't, not the concrete, but the pool itself wasn't part of that.
so it's whatever falls in the pool is, if it rained and if it were not to, if not filtered out underneath the ground, it doesn't have a filtering system of that sort, it's gonna overflow into the yard. So the cement around the pool and then the cement in-ground pool is considered impervious.
Can you tell me standards? What page that falls under?
That is, it's just an accessory structure.
No,
It's
no,
in,
about the pool
yeah, we don't have,
calculation.
it's not like specifically laid out. It's just what we've considered as impervious
I
type
just
and
feel like
material.
that-
It's full to the branch.
I understand
Yes,
this, still
yes,
out, but I feel
yeah.
like at one point, we made a change in that UDO for the consideration. But maybe it was a lot of discussion and.
Yeah, I
it never
don't-
happened.
International building code for this situation, rules. Because in
That-
Virginia,
yeah.
they're considered impervious.
Yes, I mean, I've always known them to be impervious. When we do all of our calculations with our building permits through our building department, it's always counted in on that.
I feel like we had.
Now, if we
conversations
have
tonight.
like a gravel drive, I mean, there's some of those things that we don't count. We don't count a deck that's wood. It has like
Mhm.
kind of this, slits. There are some variations on those type of structures. But a cement in-ground pool, we consider that fully impervious.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
just
don't know.
wanted to.
It would definitely be more than happy to really explore that to see if there is some reconsideration that we need to look into. But yes,
I
it
did.
is.
The Falls edition, we had some previous conversations regarding possible pools.
So that conversation, I do recall, there was a flex. They wanted to have pools and allowance. So their impervious surface percentage was reduced to allow those pools. To where it was, it's been a bit, because it's been a built out subdivision, but it was where they allowed, say if it was maximum, it was pretty low, significant, maybe 35%. So they would allow like, say 35%, but with a pool, they were going to allow it to be 45%. It was,
That's where
it was,
it's coming.
yes, Yeah,
I just
so,
want to make
so
sure.
it was kind of accommodated, it would, but I get what you're saying, yes, yes.
Okay.
So it's still impervious, but they gave some flexibility with an increased impervious max if it was.
Thank you. I just,
Yeah,
I want
yep.
the consistent.
I remember that now, yes, yeah, that was a few years back, yeah. So yeah, so as it sits now, it's 64% impervious surface. So it's already exceeding that 50%. Very, very common and typical in a residential core conservancy. Especially we got smaller lots, we've got larger homes. It's very common that many of them are exceeding that mark. With this particular parcel there, 8,000 square feet is the 50% mark, or not mark, I mean, it's at 64% at 8,000 out of 12,000 square feet impervious. And that is counting every bit of grass and lawn, into those calculations. The proposed new addition for accessory structure here is 288 square feet. And so with that added in, so 8,288 square feet versus the current 8,000 square feet of impervious surface, it bumps it up about 1% difference. So not a significant shift. But also wanted to point out that this particular structure is a little unique. It is being under 1,200 square feet. It is not required to be on a formal foundation. So it can be on block and it can be on anchors. So that is in compliance with the building code. And so even though we just always have considered with our UDO, our accessory structures, our gardens, our sheds, our garages, even if they are smaller, we have to consider because it's a rooftop, it goes into the calculation. So with it being a legal non-conforming and bumping it up and increasing it, that is just where the petitioner is asking to be able to have this shed here on the north side of the parcel for use of just recreational, personal use, for the kind of let's say a pool shed. There will not be any utilities to this structure. There will not be living quarters. It's just for kind of a hobby space, if you will. So in that, we do not have any other, facts to kind of point out. I don't know if you want me to pause, if you have any questions,
Questions?
concerns.
That artist rendering up in the left corner
Mhm.
shows an apron going into the doors. It doesn't show on that other picture on the. survey.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, that is just kind of a visual of the material. This would be an Amish-made structure. That they would come in and they would bring it onto the site and, yes, and all the exterior materials and so forth, would be compliant with our UDO. And, but yes, good point. Yeah, that is.
No, it looks like the exterior is complementary to that very, very historic area and the house is very kept up.
Yeah.
So I would expect nothing less being added. No, I mean, there's gonna be some area underneath that for drainage, since it's not a permanent structure.
Yes.
So although we have that in our calculation, I don't see it.
We can do staff analysis and then open the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, so this petitioner requests a variance from the maximum impervious surface standard to allow the construction of that garden shed that we just pointed out, which is an accessory use that is complementary and customarily incidental to the residential property. The proposed request does not alter the principal use of the property, nor does it increase the residential density, doesn't introduce any type of new land use that would be incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The addition of the garden shed is not anticipated to increase any adverse impacts. I do also want to note that all the setbacks for this accessory structure would be met. The variance is limited to the impervious surface standard associated with the desired accessory structure to further enjoy the property and does not otherwise modify the applicable developmental standards of the UDO. Any approved accessory structures will remain subject to all applicable setbacks, building standards, construction requirements, including permit review and inspection. And the proposed increase in impervious surface associated with this garden shed is deemed very minimal and does not create any risk to public health, safety, and general welfare.
7:45, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. Is there anybody online or in person who wishes to speak? Or can you say we received no letters? Correct, no. No
We
letters.
have not received any letters or, yes, correct.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Similar to the last one, I think staff did a good job going through the analysis. So it looks like the shed's gonna be board and batten with a shake roof. Is that,
That is correct, yes.
what are the, I guess, are there material restrictions in RC for sheds?
It does all fall within the same standards as to our exterior materials, but this does meet the requirement.
Okay.
So, yes, they're correct. Yes.
I think similar to the last one. Are there any conditions that feel need to be placed?
I haven't heard of any.
I guess we can entertain a motion, adopting the staff analysis for our findings.
I'll make a motion to adopt the staff analysis for V 06162026-03
For approval.
for approval.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to the next request, 115 West Elm Street.
All right, so yes, this is regarding property at Elm Street. This applicant is Scott Berline, submitted this application. This too is a variance of developmental standards. This particular parcel here, you'll see is outlined in kind of the navy blue here down to the bottom of the screen. It is a property that's kind of nestled in between the kind of more of a commercial type setting. We've got to the east, we've got a building that sits there owned by the Rings. It is a property there that is there at the corner of South Pendleton Avenue and Elm Street. We also have, and that is within our historic district as well as our downtown business district. And then we have continued on from that bookend of the downtown, additional commercial properties then to the north. But then over to the west side is our South Madison Community Foundation, the Thomas Pendleton House here. You'll see here is part of the historic district, but this particular parcel kind of is nestled in between some commercial uses, but then you'll also see that it is within a well-developed residential use within the Residential Core Conservancy. So we've got residential that is kind of here to the west, then also to the east, and then to the north here, north of Elm Street. This particular parcel is about the same, about a third of an acre, 0.32 acres. This is used primarily for and is only used for single family residential. This is also a long-term rental and has been that for quite some time. And this property and the existing home is serviced by public utilities, water, electric, gas, sanitary, sewer. And we do want to know, and there's a later slide that we'll show, but there is a Fall Creek Regional Waste District sanitary line that cuts right through this parcel here, just almost even touching here, the southeast corner of this home there. So I want to point that out. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So what the petitioner is requesting here And you'll kind of see here the home. This is Elm Street here to the north. This is the existing home where it sits. And then you'll see it's kind of flipped here. So this is the existing home. And right in this area here was it was a garage, and it was demoed here recently. And finding out wanting to add on to this primary home here and connecting into the existing detached garage that has been on the site for several years, learned that there was a small encroachment on the property to the west. So the Thomas Pendleton property, there was an encroachment. So they wanted
Can I
to,
stop you?
yes,
The Thomas Pendleton property encroached on the borough.
the burn lines, that garage was just happened to be on the
garage
Pendleton's
was-
property.
okay.
Yes,
I just wanna
the
make sure I
garage was
had
the
my-
encroachment.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes,
And it's
yes.
gone.
And it is gone. It has been removed, yes. And then in evaluating ways and exploring options to be able to add on to the property, to be able to have an attached garage, to be able to continue to benefit with a garage that it has been in long-term ability to do so. Then learning of the encroachment, wanting to remove that and eliminate that, but then also working within the confinements and constraints of this sanitary sewer line. It does not give the option to be able to expand further to the east, or to provide that amenity for a garage then, in alternate ways, and also to meet the setback, then not adding in then a garage up to the front. And then encroaching in on the public right of way off of Elm Street. So what they're proposing is that in the RC district, there is a standard of a side yard setback of 7.5 feet. And being able to utilize as a one-car garage there as an attachment, to be able to have access and clearance then from the west wall of the parcel, then it is determined that it needs a request of a variance to then be reduced down to a 1-foot setback versus the 7.5. There also kind of note while we're here is that there is not a building or a structure this is the rear property of South Madison Community Foundation, the Thomas Pendleton property here at this time. But just, wanted to point that out, that there is not a structure then on the other side. And it has been an existing structure for several years. I would say probably 1950s, maybe.
Several
Oh,
years.
Yeah, a long time. I mean, it's been long. So that is the one request. This would, if this variance is permitted, it would go through just a building permit process is what this petitioner would go through, would not have to go through a site development of any sort. But as far as the remodel, the materials and other standards of the UDO, it would be considered deemed to, anticipated to be met.
The remodel gets it off. It's not an encroachment issue.
That is correct. It has removed the encroachment from, and the home would be completely isolated onto its own property boundaries. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, it's
setback.
just the setback, the 1 foot versus the 7.5. And, the staff has not received any remonstrance, any objections in the nearby property owners. But to this also is a public hearing.
Thanks, last do staff analysis.
Sure. So, for this petition, the petitioner provided great input and information showing that historically, the information was provided. It does indicate that there was a previous accessory structure garage on that site. And that encroachment to that adjacent property was wanting to be removed and eliminated. The current proposal seeks to eliminate that encroachment, remodeling that home with an attached garage to be able to enjoy, that type of use and benefit to the site, and now being situated entirely within the subject parcel's legal boundaries. The uniqueness of the site, Fall Creek Regional Waste Sanitary Sewer places some heavy constraints upon the site. On the east side of that parcel does not give that flexibility to be able to reconfigure that lot and to be able to build farther to the east. The required setbacks or requested setback variance would allow the accessory structure to be efficiently located on that lot while preserving that garage. The garage would maintain the existing access from the public roadway. So no changes would take place for that access. The proposal does not alter the principal residential use of the property, or would it introduce a new land use that would be incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The variance request is limited to the side yard setback requirement for the accessory structure, just limited to a 20-foot stretch from north to the south there for the length of that garage, and does not otherwise modify any of the other standards that are required by the UDO. Any approved construction will remain subject to all the standards, building, fire, safety codes, including our permitting process through the planning department and required inspections. And the proposed setbacks do not create a risk to public health, safety, and general welfare, considering all facts of this case.
What's that back here? Is wall to the property line.
That is correct.
What about roof over?
That is, yes.
Is the roof gonna overhang on that side?
No,
Yeah.
if you'll let us do a foot, we'd like to do a foot, but we can go 6 inches.
And that's gonna have to be like a 1 hour firewall, no windows. Because it's within 3 feet of the property line and it's a garage, will that have to be like a 1 hour firewall?
I guess I don't know the answer to that.
So,
In
I
my
know.
far
Yeah.
distant memory,
Mhm.
I feel like in a garage wall within 3 feet of the property line has to be a 1 hour rated wall, which means no windows.
There is no openings
Has to
that
be-
is required,
has to have
yes.
Drywall on the inside, get the 1 hour rating. I think that's accurate.
Well, there won't be a window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there is a subject to fire code, so now.
Yes, it is, yes, it all has to be,
That's-
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we could just emphasize that through a condition.
But it's gonna have to be. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point.
Which way is the roof going? Is it, as I'm looking at it from the driveway, is that they're gonna be overhang, that's gonna be closer than 1 foot to the property line off?
So the gable ends will be on the north and south ends of the addition and the garage.
You have an eve near the property line.
Correct.
Could we count that for setback or do you go along the property line?
So, what I've been informed, it is a 1 foot setback from the wall, right? Is from the wall to the property line.
The eve and the footer will be very close to the property.
And that's where about that 6 inches. Yeah.
But the previous was setting over.
So I think it was about a 2 foot, 2.5.
And you coordinated with Fall Creek Regional on their survey.
So we've talked to them. Yeah, and so we're square with them. we're gonna be super close.
So they're aware where you're gonna.
Yeah, we've done it all. Just don't have many options.
Any question before we open the public hearing?
I just feel like we would need to make sure that if that, and that eaves are gonna be very close to the property line. That site's gonna need to be guttered and convey that water coming off that roof back onto their property and not shedding that 6 inches from the property line to the neighboring property.
So that's fine. Can you go back to that? So you see the bottom left-hand corner there, the city put in a new storm drain down in the bottom left-hand corner, and that whole lot, Lisa and Craig's property,
Significantly.
and all that.
Yeah.
will gutter the garage, just like you suggest, and all of that drains straight down to that storm sewer. So before they did all that work, it was knee deep, and now there's no water problems, right? So you're exactly right, and we'll run probably French drain right down to that river.
You want to make that a-
I would think that.
You okay with that being a commitment
Oh,
to
sure.
your thing?
The commitment is that the west side of the garage will have a gutter that will collect and discharge the stormwater back onto the subject property.
North.
Well,
You said
probably
south.
the- send it south.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't want the gutter just dumping out right 1 foot from the property line, needs to be directed.
There's enough fall, we'll probably bury it in the ground, get closer to the storm before it leaves, but it'll still be all on.
Other questions? 8:02, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. Anyone online or in person who wishes to speak, please come forward and state your name.
Craig Campbell, 239 South Main Street. This garage, or this property is right adjacent to our property. We have no problem at all with this. We have no problem if the overhang goes over on our property, like Denise said, the old garage was on our property, so at least this one will be on the Purline property. We're in favor of this 100%. The Purlines have been fantastic neighbors, and we welcome them to the neighborhood, so thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone online?
No.
Let's close the public hearing. So, we've discussed one condition regarding the gutter, so we made, that's in the record. So, I guess we can entertain a motion adopting staff's findings for the findings of fact with the one condition.
I'll make a motion to approve B 6162026-04, adopting the staff finding and adding a condition on the drainage as stated.
Been made, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to variance at 663 West State.
We have petitioner online.
No, I think nobody online.
That's
great.
Trying to get online. It receives a check.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, and you're one. Okay, good. Very sorry about that. So, okay, I appreciate you're here. So, yes, this is regarding property at 663 West State Street. This petitioner application was filed by Bob Goins here. You'll see here on the screen that this is property that's west of town, just southeast of the first roundabout as you go towards I-69. This particular parcel here is outlined in yellow, and it is about 2.72 acres. It was previously used as residential rental property for several years. It is now under site development plan review at the planning department for a small scale retail property, less than 6,000 square feet, would be future home of Culver's Restaurant. This this property there and the existing vacant home is serviced by public utilities, water, electric, gas, and sanitary sewer. So upon starting of any development there onto the site there for Culver's, it would require then the demolition then of that residential property or that home there. The site, I do want to note, it did just get some recent approvals here for the drainage, and it was approved by the Madison County Drainage Board and also the town engineer for stormwater retention management. It is still under review. We still are working through some site development and adjustments. So that is still probably got a few more weeks out before we're ready to have that finalized. We have a couple other approvals through like Fall Creek Regional Waste that we're waiting for. But it is otherwise going well. This petitioner in this development, you'll see here kind of on the next screen here. This is the area that is wished to be developed by and for the development of Culver's Restaurant here. You'll see here kind of on the southeast edge of this larger parcel, the stormwater detention pond that would manage any stormwater runoff for not only this particular site, but then also a future development then to the south at some point in time. You'll see here too, access to the property would fall in line well with our break in the road here for our Boulevard Road there at South Heritage Way. Just kind of give you a little bit of orientation before we go into what the petitioner is asking. Here is a complete perimeter with the buffer yard that is being provided by the developer. We have then the facility here, the restaurant. There's a little landing kind of patio here up to the north. You see the parking lot circulation, and then this area in here is for the driveway or drive-through for the restaurant. Again, some of the specifics of the site plan and the layout are being evaluated, but for the purpose of this review and consideration for tonight, there is 2 variances that have been identified as a need. If there is any additional that cannot be remedied then and resolved, they would have to come back to this board to then present then for some further variance requests. So for the 2, we knew that, right off the top, there was 2 that was considered not feasible for the site for it to be developable. The first variance that they are asking for your consideration is the one to allow a greater setback line requirement than the 10 to 40 foot standard that is established through our Gateway Corridor Overlay District. So for this particular site, we had about a year and a half ago, we adopted a Gateway Corridor Overlay as an appendix to our Unified Development Ordinance. A part of that, it took all the development that is on state roads, also highway roads, that there are setback requirements. So let's say, for example, from State Street, there's 200 feet back from the center line of the road that these enhanced additional development architectural standards can even play out with circulation, landscaping, those setback requirements, building orientation, connectivity, signage. So there's some additional standards that the Plan Commission had went through a pretty lengthy process and adoption of that through a steering committee a year and a half ago. That those main corridors, those areas that we consider kind of gateways into our community. So even from State Road 67 to the north, State Road 67 to the south, properties that are developed along US 36, State Road 38, and then also then comes up here through State Street, not in the residential areas, but kind of starting outside of those residential areas into those commercial areas up to 69 and then farther to the west. And then along the I-69 corridor, there are those additional standards that have been earmarked and kind of established by the Plan Commission body and adopted then by Town Council. A part of that is to reduce that setback, that front yard setback, instead of what on a primary arterial roadway, which would be 75 feet building setback minimum that you'd want your front wall. And this is what you call a double frontage lot. So we've got the frontage lot from South Heritage Way as well as State Street. That in the normal UDO standards, we would request for that building setback to be 75 feet. In the Gateway Corridor overlay, it is when we want to have things that are kind of more human scale, a little bit more upfront to the road frontage to kind of create more of that pedestrian friendly, inviting, welcoming type spaces. And so when this particular site was identified by the developer quite a little while ago, and looking at that standard, it made it very difficult for the layout and circulation needs, pedestrian and traffic circulation conflicts and safety points to be met. So they are asking instead of, so you'll see there that off of Heritage Way South, there is from the west wall, back at the west wall here, there is about 77 feet here off the public right of way. And then here from the north wall here up to the public right of way, there is, excuse me, I said that backwards, 110 feet to the west and then 77 feet then to the north there. That is how it is, and that's how it is being proposed. But again, that standard is at minimum 10 to 40 feet. The variance is being sought, due to that unique property layout and the constraints that it provides. The greater setbacks support, the greater setbacks support traffic and pedestrian safety, eliminating those conflicts, and then also that setback standard, if it were to be adhered to, then made it problematic for this layout with the drive-through circulation, any type of unloading for truck deliveries, and then also the patrons then of the site then and having ample parking then for the site. The second variance that they're requesting is considering a lessened landscape requirement on the south property line here. The buffer width is being met, it's provided, but what is the issue of not being able to meet within the standard is that there is a landscape buffer one, because it is a commercial to a future commercial site here. It stands in that type 1 buffer, requiring 3 shade trees and 2 ornamental trees every 30 feet. That sound right? I think it's 30 feet, or every 2 evergreen trees. That area there feeds electric utilities to the properties to the east. So it's a utility easement, and that cannot be relocated. So they're working also within that constraint and that confinement there within that space. But placing trees there, they can do shrubs, they can do smaller plants and so forth to give some green coverage and not be an adherence to our utilities under the ground. But it is within our tree management plan, our shrubs and tree ordinance, that we do not want trees planted right directly above our utilities there. So they're asking for consideration then, for that variance, to be considered, that they would not have to meet that, coverage requirement of the landscape. So those are the two variances that they're being, requested. Do you have any questions for staff or the petitioner?
So they are proposing the shrubs there,
They can,
not the larger tree.
yes, and
Yeah.
they're providing the parking lot buffering and the landscape islands, all those coverages are met. They even submitted a revised one, adding in a couple more landscapes to get that. I think this one might be a 7% landscape parking lot coverage on that. But yes, it's just specific to the trees and the evergreen coverages that would create those larger, deeper root systems.
Quick question, this is kind of like what we went through for the subway down the street. Deliveries, how would that flow? You have a concept for that?
You want to point that out? It would come in here and then it would come in here and then this would be kind of the little offshoot here, a little wider area for them to then.
Did you say?
Yes, for deliveries for.
They would just kind of, they might turn right there.
Oh,
turn
because
in
in
the
that way.
Parking lot and then come right back up the same,
Oh, okay,
the same entrance.
okay. I was thinking they had this extra lane there, but okay.
Some deliveries will come to smaller
bit.
box structure.
And then the other one was, where's the refuse handling area,
So,
the trash? the
oh,
dumpster?
yes, I think it's right back.
Southwest corner of the
In
village.
You're right.
Yeah.
Where it's visible.
And yeah, and there are standards there as well. That has to be screened and closed. Yes, all opaque.
And since this is, one, I think only maybe the second that have gone through, since we have adopted the overlay district.
Yes, yeah.
Again, just to make sure it happens, it will go through, like
The-
their exterior will go through that board.
Yes, the design review board. Yes, design review
The
board.
design
Yes. Yep.
board,
Mhm.
okay, so we won't have to worry about that. It will
Yes.
meet all those
Yes,
standards. as
they
well.
will when they're ready for the building permit. They've already provided some exterior. I believe that is added into your teams as well. That has the visual for all the exterior materials. Those are definitely met with this development. But yes, but that is correct, that once it gets to the building permit phase, that board will review that. Yeah. Mhm.
Check on the electrical. Where trees are too large, don't understand that, is there any room for discussion, what kind of landscaping they have, or what kind of heights as far as landscaping that they would have?
Yeah, if they did some perennials or annuals, any small shrubbery would not create any deep roots. That is permissible, but they did meet with our electric department supervisor, Craig Switzer, and they did explore if there was any way that it could be relocated, and there was not an option. That was really the best viable place to kind of keep that and to preserve that access point. If at later date, if it changes, we could do that, but it was advised by our electric department to keep it where it is. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Dr.
There's also sanitary sewer.
Oh, yes, that is right. Yes, Fall Creek Regional Waste. Yes, that's right. Yes, sorry.
That analysis.
So this property, it has been historically utilized as a residential rental property. And it is proposed to be redeveloped for a commercial purpose. This represents a transition to a use that is consistent with our underlying zoning district as well as our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan, they earmarked that to be local commercial, and then it is general business, and it's been zoned general business for a long time. Even the properties to the east are zoned general business. The Gateway Corridor Overlay District establishes building setbacks and landscape standards intended to promote a cohesive streetscape, encouraging that pedestrian-oriented design and enhance the visual character of the primary transportation corridors. The proposed setback complements the development to the west. So in line with Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Starbucks, and even also the future mini strip mall there for Subway. Those all have similar setbacks that will mirror then the setback here for this particular parcel. So that is consistent with that theme as well. The requested setback variances would modify the relationship of the proposed structure to the corridor while not altering the permitted and intended commercial use of the property and the underlying zoning classification. The requested reduction in landscape requirements is limited to just that south property line. It does not eliminate the requirement for the site to comply with all other landscaping, buffering requirements, landscaping perimeter, parking lot perimeters, and so forth. And all those site developments standards have been met, and also we have already evaluated their landscaping plan, and they do have the coverage provided elsewhere. There's already existing easement before this property was acquired for the commercial, that sanitary line, that electric line there to the south, and that sufficient adequate landscaping screening, again, has been provided on all other boundaries of the parcel. The proposal will not be anticipated to adversely affect any public infrastructure, traffic circulation, or access management associated with the redevelopment of the site. The stormwater detention facilities will assure that all of the stormwater runoff will be contained within that site and not negatively impact those adjacent properties. The larger setback will support enhanced traffic and pedestrian connectivity and safety there to the site. And any improved developments also will be and maintain and support our unified development ordinance, all of our building permits, our fire safety codes as well, and inspections will be adhered to. And the requested variance, we do not see that it will create a public risk to our health and safety and public and general welfare.
If not, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. All right. The 8:21, we'll open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone present wishing to speak? Come forward and state your name.
My name is Bryce Owens. My office is around the corner of 119 North Pendleton Avenue. I am here on behalf of TKORE South LLC, which owns the house immediately east of this property. We're here objecting to the first variance request, not to the second one. Specifically, when we look at the, well, let me get a little bit out of order here. Is it possible to bring that diagram back?
Oh,
Yes. So setback rules are, they don't work just in one direction. Anytime you move a setback in one direction to help somebody, you're hurting somebody else. So under the present established rules, that building would have to sit quite a bit further west from where it is. By moving it over, it jams it and one or two lanes of traffic up against my client's property. It will be within a few feet of bedroom windows. And they'll have the contract. We're not against culverts. We want a culverts, but we want it done right. And if you jam it up in the corner there, it really ruins the value and use of the house immediately east of it. It's obvious to all of us that we have a growing commercial corridor along State Street. And when we have good planning on these things, the various restaurants and businesses, they have interlocking parking now so that you don't have a huge volume of vehicles coming in and out on State Street. What they're proposing completely isolates my client's property while destroying its value. The retention pond destroys any possible access to the south, and jamming the drive-through lanes and things up on the east side of the property would eliminate any possible solution there. So when we look at the standards, in order for the variance to be granted, the petitioner has to prove, and you have to be satisfied that all of these things are true. So if we look through the application, it says, it will not be injurious to yada, yada, the community. They say, well, we just want to move it back from the road, less distractions for vehicles and pedestrian traffic. But what about the adjacent properties? Will it not be affected in a substantial manner by the removal of the various respects? Why is this true in this case? Their answer is, it's a different type of use. Well, how is that responsive to the impact of damage to the house to the east if you put this drive-through lane and cut off all of the access in the future?
Is they petitioner?
Sorry?
You use the word they.
I
Are
think
you referring to
petition,
petitioner?
yes,
Thank you.
yes. So then the next standard is the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the subject property. Why is this true? They say putting the building further back on the setback would disrupt the traffic flow through the drive-through in the parking lot because it's a corner lot and that takes up a large portion of the area. Well, they're only looking at a small portion of the lot. There's about 3 acres there. So it's their choice to fit this up into a corner of the 3 acres for their own convenience. The need for the variance arises from some condition particular to the property involved. Explain why this is true. They've said nothing. They have no explanation for that. The strict application of the zoning would result in an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property. Why is this true? No answer. They have no explanation of why it would be an unreasonable hardship for them to move the building over where the rules call for it, or to move it back further on that 3-acre parcel. The approval does not interfere substantially with the town comprehensive plan. Explain why that's true. No answer. They have no explanation of why this doesn't interfere with the town plan. Is this the minimum measure of relief necessary? Explain why this is true. The site design pushes the building as close as possible without interrupting traffic and pedestrian flow. I would disagree. It would be very simple to move the building west or a little bit south. It would comply with the rules and it would not destroy the future connectivity of the further commercial properties from here going east. We have one more home, we have a small vacant place, and then we have some more residential, which probably within our lifetimes will be similar developments, and they need to be connected together so that we don't put hundreds of cars out trying to make left turns out on State Street. And then this last one, the variance does not correct a hardship caused by a former or current owner. Explain why. And they say, well, it's currently a vacant lot. Well, they have 3 acres. They could fit this building safely and reasonably within their 3 acres. And so because of those reasons, and the fact that it will potentially greatly diminish the value of the property to the immediate east, we think the first change in the setbacks should be denied because they haven't shown any legitimate need for it, and they have completely ignored the fact that it's going to have a huge impact on present homeowning taxpayers here in the community. Thank you.
Can we go back to the graphic that shows, looks like this yellow dash?
Yeah.
And which one of those houses that's to the west of the dash line is actually the residence? Or are all of them?
The yellow dash kind of sits over top of it.
Yeah. These houses are just a few feet apart, so that right there, that's the house we're talking about.
Wow, okay.
And if you look east from there, you can see that there's, I can't do acres in my head, but there's a bunch of acres there, which will eventually become the same sort of use. And what they're proposing,
When you say same sort of use, you mean residential use or?
no, further expansion of this commercial
Okay.
band, which is eventually going to run from Fall Creek out to the interstate. And what they're proposing essentially puts a dike across that development. It'll become the people to the further east will have no alternative but to petition repeatedly for commercial access onto State Street, when the access should be coming through south of State Street to connect to Heritage Way.
Maybe I didn't phrase the question correctly, but where that dash line is, you say that there's gonna be cars in the drive-through, you know, right in your bedroom windows. Which house are you talking about, bedroom windows?
That one right there.
So that's not the one that's gonna get torn down?
Yeah, the one to the left is getting torn down.
Being torn down, okay, got it.
Chair, before we have further discussion, should we allow the petitioner to respond to, what was stated?
And I have something too. I can
Okay,
clarify.
and staff,
Yes.
before we get into too much discussion, that might clear up things for us.
Clarify whether or not there's any additional public comments and then make an opportunity
Okay.
after the close of public comments.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anybody online? Anybody else in the room here who wishes to speak about this petition? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And we,
You want to do, and I've got something. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Bob Goins. Like to answer a couple of those things. If you could go back to the site plan, please. Thank you. Moving the building over or moving the building south sounds simple, but it's not simple. If we move the building to the west, we end up with parking like Wolfies, which we all know things. Honestly, if we move the building further south, we go right across the sanitary sewer easement that we just discussed, we can't do that. That has already been, excuse me, run through with Tim McCurdy and Fall Creek Regional Waste. The easement has already been granted right through that area, and we're not gonna be able to build on that. We cannot move further south because of that. Those are the two things I had to say. I mean, the pond that is there is for drainage. That is a requirement for compensatory storage. Again, we have no choice. That is a requirement.
thank you.
Just had a couple of things just to clarify.
Sure.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you for being here, because we definitely want to make sure that our development that does come in, that it, it's courteous and thoughtful, to our adjacent property owners, and making sure that they can continue to enjoy their property as well. So I appreciate that. Did want to clarify the list that was went through by the representative of the adjacent property owner. That was off of the printout that our system iWorks prints out. And unfortunately, and I apologize, this isn't clear, as part of the criteria, there's only 5 criteria for a variance of developmental standards. This particular system that we provide and that we have provided to this property owner, it lists all the questions that are involving a conditional use, a land use variance, as well as a variance of developmental standards. So although it appears that there were questions on the application that were not answered to, they're not required. And when you go through the actual digital application of it, it just populates and gives them the opportunity to answer just the 5 questions that are relative to a variance of developmental standards. So this particular petitioner did answer each of those 5. And those points then too were then incorporated into some of the assessment and the analysis that was provided tonight. So I just want to make sure that it didn't appear that our petitioner was negligent on that. Also just to answer, I think, we did answer that the comprehensive plan, the zoning district, the overlay district all do support our future land use map does support commercial in this area. Those properties to the east also can sell and develop commercial as well. And then 2, as far as the setback that is set for the overlay district, those more intense setback requirements are the minimum 10 feet to 40 feet maximum. That only applies to a front yard setback. The side yard setback isn't established in our gateway overlay. That falls back to our zoning ordinance, and that's 10 feet. And they more than exceed that setback requirement. So that is why that variance didn't need to be sought tonight. So, as far as Stephanie, if you want to go back up to the red zoning image, doesn't really quite capture everything here. But there has been discussion, of potential, service, road to the south. And this would be definitely dependent upon development, in the future, but it's never been to continue Henderson Way onto the east. That creates very shallow development, capabilities and spacing there. So it would be more envisioned more down to the south here. Or if there is any type of service road to be able to eliminate some of the cuts off of State Street, it would have been envisioned farther south. So that this development doesn't impede upon those future envisions and potential road access points then from the rear for those parcels. That's all I had. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, so none of these variances affect how close the drive lane is to the east boundary. No matter where the building is, the parking lot can be right up against the boundary line. So that really has no effect, I guess, on traffic being outside the bedroom window, I don't think.
Well, because if you flip that, you're gonna have all the parking, you're gonna have
Yeah, you gotta
the
have
lighting.
headlights straight into it.
So there is buffering. I would like to hear more about buffering and between this property and the house. It looks heavier there. Is there gonna be a berm? What kind of buffering? And then initially, what, the requirement on the initial size, not what it could become in 20 years, but what from the development.
Yes,
stage.
they did, you are 100% right. They enhanced that. They went up to the buffer type 2. So that further increases the width and the intensity of the coverage there for the trees, and the and the shrubs and the evergreens there as well. So yes, it is a much heavier use. We have not gotten that full in detail with our site development plan. But that was committed that buffer type 2 will be provided for that difference between a residential, because it is, even though it's zone general business, we want to make sure that we're protecting what it is currently being used as. So they do have to adhere to that.
What's the difference? Type 2 is probably bigger, heavier.
Yes, it's and I apologize, I should have looked back at that before tonight to refresh my memory. We could pull that up, but it's a table of, instead of like 3 to 2, it is like it's like the setback plus additional 15 feet of the width of the buffer. The coverage is more extensive instead of it being like 3 to 2. Do you have that here? I'm gonna let you read it.
J trees, 6 evergreen trees,
6, yeah.
or 3-foot tall berm and 25 shrubs.
No plans, no fence or sound wall or anything like that, though. No.
But the berm gives additional height.
Yes, that gives the height, yeah.
Still brings quite an issue on, that's referring to, if you get development going to the east, which we have to anticipate that will probably occur over a period of time. The access coming off State Street, the width of State Street is, I think, pretty much locked in as far as the width of the listing street. I can see future development, trying to make a left turn, coming in from the east. Or,
Yeah.
development going on to the east is going to be a real challenge because of access to the property. State Street cannot be widened, so that you have a turn lane, for example. When you turn left into some business that It's out there, but down the road, will be there, making that turn on and blocking traffic. Anyway, you can't blame State Street. We're talking about a possible, access road to the south of the property. It would occur to me that we need to have some discussion on that as growth occurs. They're not impacting Coleman at the point, I don't see an issue with them. The future growth going to the east, I think we've got to be careful here. We don't get kind of locked in that they can't really develop their property because of access, traffic flow into the future business.
Yes, you're 100% right. Any future development that would prohibit us to be able to have that future access road off to the rear, we would ask them to at least at best to dedicate right away. We've got provisions in our UDO that would provide us the ability to be able to ask, to ask that if it was something that we could not, if the developer did not want to develop that, that is something that we can at least preserve it for when the town does have funds to be able to put the access road in. Yes.
I had some questions regarding the retention pond. I did not catch the issues of the placement.
The issues of the placement for the,
Mr. Owens had mentioned the issue of the placement of the retention pond, and I didn't quite catch what was mentioned regarding that.
okay.
If I could answer that, and then I had a couple follow-up thoughts if it's allowed. They've got 3 acres to work with, and yet the proposal at this point, and of course the site plan's not nailed down, we're not to that point yet, but the proposed location for the retention pond cuts off all of the access, possible access to the south from my client's property. If the pond were over closer to Heritage Way, you would not be creating a new problem.
Can I, sorry. Can I pull it back here? So where the pond is client's access, so I'm not understanding where he's wanting to access his property from.
We had another diagram just a moment ago. Okay, if you take a look to the west, you see the subway and the bank.
Yes,
And you see how that's all interconnected and it
Yes.
works.
Yep.
What's being proposed on the east side would completely prevent you from being able to do that going forward.
but the road is in our future,
Farther south.
yes, it's farther south, so it's not straight across.
That's correct. But if you're requiring these developments to interconnect
Uh-huh.
so that you don't have these additional hundreds of cars, you have something that looks more like what's on the left than what's being proposed on the right.
So what's in our, I believe it's our thoroughfare, thank you. There is connectivity, but it's like, it's not gonna be straight, it's down
Yes.
and kind of curves.
And it's kind of conceptual. for
Yeah.
The thoroughfare plan.
Exactly, depending on how things develop.
And I guess I just disagree with the fact that it's being said that you can't move that building over to comply with the existing rules. You can put it where it would fit. And there's not really justification for moving it other than for their convenience to the degradation of their neighbor.
I think, and I don't wanna speak on behalf of the petitioner, but I know we've had a lot of site plans in front of us. And when there's a drive-through and the building's dead in the center, that pushes off all the parking around, and you don't want people who are parking going into the building to cross over a lot of that driveway traffic, right? That's why they usually have it offset. But then I think it was mentioned then, if this was reversed, all the parking and that parking light for safety is going to be on the side your client. And then that part pushes it to 2 front row or road footage. Because the north and south road and the east and west road, if you have the building closer, it's gonna change, basically all the standards.
And it would require that drive-through to be visible then from State Street as well as South Central, Heritage Way
Correct.
as well. It would force it, or you would,
Yes,
have the drive-through in the middle of the parking lot.
based on our newest.
And there are several, recommendations and standards outlined in the Gateway Corridor overlay. And some of those can't all be met. So sometimes that trade-off of providing that connectivity, that functionality, the cohesiveness with the entire corridor as it's kind of already developed. Those are standards that we need to, to apply and to check off. It's just that 10 to 40 feet piece of that could not be accommodated by also meeting all these other standards that have been set.
And sir, the buffering, as stated as being the heavier buffering,
The diagram that we were provided, which is a more detailed version than the one that's been put up, it shows a whole line of that traffic and such inside the building setback line.
I'm not following, I apologize.
It's a 10-foot side setback, right? For the building.
It shows 20 feet on this survey. And it shows that their drive is well into that 20 feet. I think the real solution is to require a condition that if this is approved, that there be provision made for future possible access to the east that would connect somehow to this lot. So it could function like the credit union and the subway.
How does that connectivity of the properties adversely affect your client?
If you give Culver's permission to move this building up and over into him, then there will never be room for that connectivity to happen.
The connectivity is the future roadway below.
I'm talking about as if we were talking about where the Starbucks and the credit union are, where those
Yes.
lots meet up and interconnect.
Yes.
And as this is presently proposed, you could never do that.
But how does that design adversely affect your client?
This will greatly reduce the value of his property because he will not be able to move forward with a similar project without being able
Okay,
to connect.
or, so not for current use, but for future sell as commercial property is what you're trying to
Right.
state?
We have that general business zone that runs from here all the way back to the creek. And over the next decades, I would anticipate that would all get built out. And
So,
so I'm just saying that I don't think that we should put a wall in between these for commercial plots so that they cannot be connected.
so his current property might not be big enough on its own for future commercial development, which would be reliant upon Culver's property for overflow parking, shared parking. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not thinking so much about parking as just access.
Okay, but as far as access, future access, if, say that property sells, then you have two that could possibly be connected from this future roadway. So I'm not understanding, and I know that the others are connected.
If
But I'm trying to understand this,
if I may.
adverse piece of it, how it hurts your client.
Well, we think it really hurts the present value of it, but if I'm thinking about where they tore down the Steak and Shake over on Scatterfield, we have a string there a half a mile long that's similar to what's here. And there's very little access off Scatterfield. They pushed it all into the back and all those parking lots all connect to each other. And that makes it work. And I'm just saying, I think this would be very poor planning to create something that would prevent an efficient traffic use in the future.
Well, traffic use is something we discuss heavily, with our plans. Having one very large parking lot, that's not always the intent. Which is why some of these other access roads for future planning, have been discussed, not just discussed, but they are in our future plans, very officially.
You bring up the thoroughfare,
Yeah,
just,
Gonna ask Denise, they're gonna, I mean,
I mean,
there's gonna be a cut on the State Street, that's some, for every business, right, that as it develops going.
Yeah, so I'm sure she could pull up the zone. A little bit.
There's that dentist's office south of this, right on the carriageway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the road gonna be between the dentist's office and the, retention pond?
and there's a strip of town on the south of that.
So what has been discussed is this is go on up. Is that if it was not continued here at South Heritage Way, as development comes, then we've got I want to go up, and so I want to see farther south. Sorry. If this wasn't, continued here, development, if development came, that this wasn't extended, then it would be envisioned farther down here to the south, or even here where we have,
Where the power lines are.
yeah, there is, not letting them move up.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, sorry, go on up, okay, to the blue down there. Okay, so this right here is where Business Park Trail is being currently designed. This is easement owned by the town. So this could be potentially here in areas of a road access to these rear properties. I mean, these are very long properties here that go end to end here. So the access point, could be somewhere here to the south, or then envision north of the dental business here versus more up to.
So all those properties abut the blue property, except for this 0.4 acre piece, small adjoining parcel. All the other parcels there come all the way down. I just don't see how that 0.4 acres gets developed on its own. It's gonna be part of an overall master plan that is in agreement with our thoroughfare plan for a road.
You say which 0.4 acres, just go to the area where that is.
This one's kind of a landlocked, but I mean, it's a more shallow, and then all these go from end to.
Yeah, they're all deep.
And another solution would be if Culver's incorporated this one into their plan. I don't know, that would solve it as well.
To incorporate.
If Culver's tore down the two houses instead of just one.
Oh, yeah. Did have, some conversation with the representative for, Culver's here. If one of the concerns is as far as highlights and noise and traffic being here on this, which is a garage, here on this
So
residence.
it's over one.
Oh, I'm sorry, right here. Sorry, I apologize. That once this is demoed, and this here is kind of where the drive-through thing comes around, they would be willing to have conversations with the property owner to be able to install a privacy fence along that property owner's, property. So if that is something that, would be entertained, we can put into the conditions they've indicated that they would be willing to do, very similar to what we did with Prairie Farms. With the development there, just as a courtesy, as that is and continues to be a residential use before it then converts eventually at some point in time to.
And it's all zoned commercial already,
It is, yes,
so it's not a residential.
yeah, you'll see all that red area, it's all general business.
What's the
Is the long-term plan for the property straight south of those culverts, which appears to be the same property, is it to divide that off
That is
into
correct.
another
That would be a future.
buildable? I mean, I'm sympathetic to Bryce's concerns, and I think for a while, we were really trying to do a lot of cross-connection type things. And that, you know, if that pond were just pushed to the south onto that second property, then you would have potential there for some sort of cross-connection in the future. On the other hand, it is,
correct.
it is kind of an orphaned, I mean, in any situation, it's kind of an orphaned property. It's a very shallow property.
Yeah, I agree. If the pond were 200 feet south, then whatever that other lot is developed, there'd be the possibility to connect to that. And those things type, yeah.
Is the placement of the pond, is there any reason why it was placed where it's at?
Yeah, it was placed there for a couple of reasons. One, with that sanitary easement coming through there, we'd probably be able to put a road through.
Is that the
anyway.
heavy line?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then the pond was pushed to the back, because it made it where we could, use that to easily connect to drainage for the culverts. And it pushes it back, that way we tie into the storm here at the south to go out to the city. And then at least in front of that, acreage there, developable, into something else. It's not.
What other, you talk about, we're talking about becoming really finalized. What other steps are there in the process, apart from, say, us granting or not granting the variance, but what are the other steps in finalizing the site?
We just have some, updates just to, we need an approval from Fall Creek Regional Waste. We need the formal written approval from Madison County Drainage Board. We've received verbal, that the board was going to approve it this past week. I think was at the meeting. So I knew going into it was going to be approved, but I've not received the official letter. So I have to have those pieces, before we can release approval. Site development, our water department, electric department, they're just kind of finalizing their reviews just to make sure everything's okay, before we move forward for, site development approval from the town.
I feel like with those utilities come through there, we're kind of dealing with two lots, not really. And you can't just slide things around when you have utilities in play. It's kind of a dividing line between the two lots. Even though it's still just one property currently.
And I think that's kind of when the idea of putting the major roadway or access road there was kind of exhausted and that it was envisioned that it needed to go farther south. That relocation and servicing that, it is, a part of a large sewer sanitary system that feeds not only, kind of to the south and to the east, but then also connected and tied into.
I'm pretty torn on this one. When it was first presented, I think my looking as I look at this, very similar. Thinking it's why is it not sitting the other direction? Why is it not sitting closer to Area Way? But then you're pushing the parking lot over next to it. I don't know, that's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. As it was, there a discussion in acquiring that property? Is there any discussion from Culvers in acquiring the neighborhood property?
I think you and, are you the, yeah. You and I spoke on it. Yeah, true, yeah. We did discuss it. Ideally, if we'd known about your place would be for sale a year ago, we would have, that would have been a no-brainer.
Did I speak with you about a year ago? I think we spoke about a year ago.
No, I mean, I think you may.
Apparently
You and I were just the other day, like we,
Yeah, I think.
but, I don't know how it would Yeah, you know what I'm saying, it's hard to.
I mean, it's kind of you want cars going this way next to your house, or do you want to point it at your house or the headlights in the parking?
Well, I think if there was a double row of parking, for example, there, then in the future, that would leave it open for the possible interconnectivity somehow. Once you build that drive-through lane, you're done.
So it's less, cars next to the bedroom window than it is connectivity between that lot and some future.
I think I think that from a planning perspective, and I think that multiple rows of parking, it would be easier to do some interconnectivity in the future. Once you have the building built and the drive-through, that's never gonna happen.
Does the thoroughfare plan, as it exists now, have that road that you're talking about, or if that's something that?
Yes, it is in the thoroughfare plan, actually, right in that stretch.
And then what's the vision for handling traffic in that development along 38? Is it just a whole bunch of separate road cuts?
Thoroughfare plan doesn't do access
okay.
points on that,
Okay.
but as far as in our access management control ordinance, in our primary, secondary type roadways, we do want to keep those limited.
And flipping that would create a lot of other issues to meet with the overlay plan,
Yes,
pushing it into the other.
kind of a
corner.
domino effect
It
of other
is.
things that would not be able.
And then honestly, that quote, shared connected parking could create other issues based on, because traffic, and then there's so many spaces allotted for each business. There could be some, issues there as well. And it shouldn't be interdependent on meeting a standard for the buildings. Their lot alone has to uphold its own parking or, and that is a concern. I think looking at a plan, you have to design it, based on what's currently there for the hardship. I feel like we're getting into a lot of future uses. And what ifs, because we don't know what in the future could be there. I do feel like the connectivity part in our thoroughfare plan has been discussed based on that unique parcel.
We do know that this building can comply with the setback rules without a variance. And so the real question becomes, what is the justification for the variance? That's your decision.
So it's got 3 lanes on the drive-through, right, on the east side of the building right now. So I don't see how, if you flipped it, you wouldn't be able to fit that in the 10 to 40 foot setback. I mean, so you'd still need a
Yeah,
variance
yeah,
to
maybe
fit
somewhere
this design, because it's more than 40 feet from the east property line to the building.
If the building was 75 feet off of Heritage Way instead of 100 and something, then that.
I thought it was supposed to be 10 to 40.
For the gateway overlay, yes, as it is now.
So off of, and off of 38,
That
it's
is-
supposed to be 10 to 40.
That would be the standard.
So that would,
So if you were 40, you wouldn't have enough room. That's the maximum 40. You wouldn't have enough room for the drive-through configuration. If you complied. I think either way, you would need a variance. And from a circulation standpoint, and like you said, the drive-through seems less intrusive than a bunch of cars with headlights pointing straight at the other building.
You would have your drive-through, as you have down here, it would be slipped, and it would be back up off of our main street. So with the drive-through would also be off of Henderson, or Heritage Way. How it is orientated at this point, it does meet the cohesiveness test of the Gateway Overlay District with all the developments to the west. We did that with the mini strip mall for the subway as well. knowing that that's how that tone was kind of set with the Starbucks and Three Rivers. There is some domino effects of other tests wouldn't be met if we'd been kept to the strict standard of the 40 or 1040. Even drive-throughs are not supposed to be visible from the roadway as well. Gateway. Be more screened, so.
Yeah, it's that, I would think it's the less appealing side of the building to face the street.
If I could make one final comment. I talked earlier today with Connor Grant and also with Denise McKee, and I want to thank both of them for being so accommodating and getting this information to us so that we could be prepared for the meeting.
Thank you.
And staff's analysis is good. Yeah, on this one.
Given the level of commentary here, I would suggest, one, if the commission is inclined to vote in favor for this request, that they're explicitly find that all of the conditions met, the bottom of the staff report,
Okay.
are met. And given the amount of commentary here, maybe appropriate for a roll call.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's discuss the criteria then. So the first one's not injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Professionals.
I don't think you made a case for health, safety, morals, or general welfare, but there may be a case, in their opinion, of property value. That could,
He as a
For what?
petitioner or intervener.
yeah, Bryce, Bryce, when he made his case for his client.
We think these requests don't cause injury to the public.
I don't think it does because it meets standards that are in place.
We're in agreement that that criteria is met. The second criteria, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. This is the
One would be that whole, yeah.
sure. And it seemed like as the discussion went on, it was not necessarily related to where the building was, but to this connectivity issue. More than the variance. The variance isn't about the connectivity. It's about the building place.
About future use of parking.
Speculative use.
And I think they've addressed as far as what we typically would have assumed, which was the buffer or the heavy landscaping, and there's possible fences if necessary, so that could be a conditional use if the intervener wants a fence, then they can have that, and that's not part of that buffering screen, so we could add that as a conditional use if approved.
And the landscape buffer provided is already above the requirement on that.
Correct. So it meets the requirement.
Okay,
Type 2.
on the east side.
We make sure that it meets, well, we ask that it meets the commercial versus residential as what the current use
Because
is
of use.
versus the zoning.
Gotcha, okay.
classification. Yeah, so not for future, so we made sure that it was protected as how it is used today.
And we've been focused on, kind of sufficing what was presented by the intervener, but we need to also remember the other variances or the other variants, such as, get my directions, to the north, or to the south. The, where it can't have the trees, but they're doing, you know, the maximum possible because of all of the utilities underlying. So I feel like they are addressing that as well.
So how do we feel about the second criteria in regards to the setback?
I think it substantially meets it with objections noted. Doesn't say totally, it says substantial.
I'd agree.
I'd move on to the third criteria, the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. And I think as staff discussed, trying to bring this building up to the intersection does create some problems. With pedestrian connectivity, with site access and parking.
And
So
would it
trying
be-
to meet that 10 to 40 does create some challenges.
And it wouldn't meet our gateway corridor.
It's
That-
a restaurant, so that's right. Gotta have movement around it.
Yeah.
Just parking.
The variance granted is the minimum necessary. So they're requesting 110 and 77.5, which that appears to me based on exactly what will just fit based on the site plan. So it seems to be the minimum. Variance granted does not correct a hardship caused by a former or current owner of the property. So yeah, it's undeveloped. This is all proposed, so that's not a problem. I feel like based on our discussion here, it meets the criteria. I mean, as you said, with some objection, but it's noted. I guess the question is, do we want to include the condition for the fence?
I think we should, it doesn't hurt to include that and just leave it as, if the intervener chooses to want a fence, then the petitioner has already agreed to put that in. If they choose not to want that and to go with the heavier buffering as proposed, then, that can also happen.
I think the heavier buffer is already in the deal, right? Yeah.
Discussion on the analysis.
This is tough one for me, for this. It's colors, it'd be a big project they propose, but I think it is gonna have an impact. Future development going to the east, as Brian provides, I think he's got a good point on that. And how that impacts, our decision on what is before us, it's colors. I think they've got a good project, in my view. But I am concerned about future impact. We've got the utility, we've got the retention pond. We've got proposed roads to the south of that location. There's someone up in the air as far as where that would be located. If you have Henderson Way coming through, I think if you're gonna have a road cut, I would think you wanna have that intersection on Henderson Way straight east off that existing road. But then with the retention pond and what is taking place, I think it's gonna have to be farther south than that. Then you can have a zigzag on your road. It's not gonna be a crossroad, it's gonna be a here, one here, farther south, and I'm sure that that's good. Good planning, good zoning as far as the growth that's taking place. But they're going to get back to what was before, I think that's a good project, I'm comfortable with that. But I am concerned about overall development as we go along.
We've got 2 hotels going to here. This area, 2 Marriott's.
Yeah. But they're cutting another road.
Yeah.
Right here. So we don't know where a road would be here. It's gonna be, I think what we do here is going to have some impact on where, and if we do another road, going to lead for that would be located. Maybe kind of locked in, that's the only option you have with the retention pond.
And I think it's not even so much the retention pond, but it's that the retention pond is there based on the utilities. And so there was never going to be a road straight across
Can't do
because
it.
of that.
Never was a long time. I mean, dollars, a lot of times will make those utilities move. It's whether it's feasible to put enough dollars into this project, to make this utility move. I'm not convinced, and I'm gonna kind of echo what Bob just said. I'm just not convinced that this is the right use for that piece of property. There might not be a better, less intensive use of this piece of property that doesn't cut off the property to the east of it for future development. When I worked for the town 20+ years ago, we were talking about where a road might be located in that area to support development to the east, and there's still not a road in that area to support development to the east. So are we, by granting this variance, are we creating a situation where we are imposing a decision on the future planning of that quadrant where, as, you know, if Culver's was on any other part of that roundabout, they were in the northwest, it's probably more expensive because it's probably more feasible to build over there, then there wouldn't be any of these issues. Or if they acquired the old Burger King, there wouldn't be any of these issues, and they'd have a place that is already suitable for a fast food restaurant with traffic flow around it. I'm not convinced that this doesn't have a substantial effect on the property to the east. And I'm also not 100% convinced that they're not correcting the hardship they created themselves by the way they set this site plan up. I mean, they've got a larger piece of property and they have designed it to me in a way that makes the back half of that property marketable for some other use instead of utilizing it in a way that would not adversely affect the property.
I think those other properties to the east, aside from the intervenor, all are the larger lots. And I think that's the larger lots that could connect potentially to future access road. So it's really the small size of this current lot. And as far as access, if the rest develops, that could also then adjoin to its, the parcel that's on its east. So the small parcel could adjoin to that. And then that parcel is longer, the next one is longer, if we keep heading east. And then so that could be a share to go down. But as its current situation, even if Culver's wanted connectivity with that small parcel is currently being used as the home, still being used as a home. So I feel like we're trying to appease the current use and possible future use, which we're not having those discussions about the other parcels to the east necessarily, because they're not present. So, but those are the longer lots that would connect to that road. And if one of those were to develop, we could have access to that smaller parcel.
Yeah, I add, it's just that in seeing how the development to the west has been very restrictive and has dealt with a lot of constraints in those very narrow, very unique parcels. We do the same thing on the east side of Heritage Way. We're going to then be in the same type of situation. Seeing that in those larger spaces, more of a master site development plan and more flexible use and end user uses will allow a lot more greater opportunity for better development than carving that out, separating those segments and then creating additional very short, shallow lots then to the east. There also is the possibility, and I don't know if it's up there, if you want to pull up the zoning, but we will have intersection then the right in, right out on the north side there, would be east of the roundabout. Serenity Drive, you remember that, which has the two lots to the north. So that's something that we could mirror then to that parcel, not this particular property owner's parcel, but the property to the east, where there could be a full access intersection there, if ever was appropriate for development, larger development coming in.
Yeah, I feel like trying to match Henderson Way really crams all that going to
And
east.
the roads.
What year was Henderson Way put in?
And it goes to
Maybe
the
it wasn't put in the best location.
Yeah, it goes, if you watch the angle, it gets more shallow and it goes to the south as it goes east.
Yeah.
So as that road will come, those lots would become more and more narrow. It comes down here, so when you take your roadway here, they're gonna become more and more shallow the farther east that you become, or that you come. And then there will be a future road here that then could be a safe access point then here to the south as well, that then could give connectivity to this property owner area as well.
And to all,
And to all the others,
yeah.
as well, yeah, yes. Yeah, and that's where we would envision another future cut if we had one off of State Street. It's not been fully explored, but we've had discussions with our town district.
So a couple future options.
Had a discussion of one condition. Is the option for the fence. And so we thoroughly discussed the criteria. Feel like there's been a consensus that it's been met. We could definitely acknowledge the adjoiner's concerns, but and what's here and now for the site development and what makes sense. So I guess to the point where we need to entertain a motion.
And I'd agree, it's met our newest UDO, our newest comp plan with the Heritage Way, which is a lot to me. And they've done a good job, but
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted by Denise with the condition that, if desired by the adjoining property owner, that there some kind of fence be put up on his wall. Make that a condition. Is that something everybody wants to?
I'm fine with that.
Privacy fences.
Privacy fence.
We have a motion with the condition. Second.
My second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as stated. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We have to be motion that or say that, or not that, but there, you know, kind of hung up on, mentioned earlier as far as future growth of the town. Locations, for, you know, it's gonna have, what we do here is gonna have an impact on future development. Nothing against Culvers, I think it's a great project, but it's gonna have an impact, might be going particularly to the east or to the south. What we do, maybe that's okay, but that could, might help drive that train as far as how those things lay out going to the east and to the south, based on what we do with this. As you mentioned, on, what we have is one that forms that we will add on the existing proposed culvert, which I think is a good project.
Discussion. Got a motion in a second, so we will do a roll call vote. Denise, you want to do that?
Ogden, Robert
I'll vote to approve.
James King,
Vote to approve.
Icorn,
Vote to approve.
Denise Sisson,
I vote to approve.
Robert.
Deny.
Carries 4-1. That's the final item on the agenda for this evening. All right, anything else? All right, appreciate everybody coming to the meeting. Motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.
We have things to sign.